On behalf of the LTO program, I'd like to welcome you today to talk about some of the most important topics in the storage industry. Today, I'm here with Phil Goodwin, who's a research director with IDC's Enterprise Infrastructure Practice, covering research on data management. Phil provides detailed insight and analysis on the evolving industry trends, vendor performance, and the impact of new technology adoption. Phil, welcome.
Hey, Geoff, how are you? Thank you.
I'm doing well. LTO tape can be used to address the ransomware threat and deal with large volumes of data. What are some of the other problems organizations are dealing with?
Back in the early days of computing, of course, everything was in the data center, and we just did a dump of that data off of disk onto tape. But now that data is scattered across the core, which is private cloud or traditional data center plus public cloud, where it may be with a SaaS provider or maybe a cloud native application, so on, or it may be at the edge, such as a remote office, back office, or an IoT device or an endpoint device or something of that nature. And as a result of that kind of deployment, IT organizations now need to be able to protect data all across the different areas. IDC predicts that between 2020 and 2025, as many applications will be deployed in those 5 years as were deployed in the previous 40. The vast majority of those are going to be in the cloud or at the edge. And we are predicting that the amount of data that is going to be copied from the edge to the core, the cloud, will double over the next 2 years. So IT organizations need a way to capture, protect, and standardize that data, because it becomes in silos when it's in those different locations, different data types, different applications, different owners, and so on. It does get siloed. What we suggest is that tape can become that common factor between all the different repositories. Being able to collect that data, put it onto tape, then makes it available for business use, which might be analytics, it might be staging, it might be DevOps. There may be a lot of different uses for it. But having it standardized on that tape technology, we believe, is one of the ways to really start breaking down the silos of data within an organization.
So how can LTO tape help this situation?
LTO has become an industry standard tape format. And as such, there are a number of vendors that supply LTO tape, as well as both the drives, the libraries, the media, and so forth. So it's that standardization that provides that common element across the organization, Geoff. So when you talk about having a common format, a common repository, and a common data management methodology, that's really where LTO can help an organization shine.
So cloud has certainly taken over the industry by storm, no pun intended. What's your perspective regarding data protection and cloud?
Yeah, I see what you did there, Geoff. That's cloud and tape. A lot of times, I think one of the big mistakes that people make is thinking that with cloud, they don't need tape. And I'll tell you from our research, about 90% of organizations use cloud for some type of their data protection. And I'm not here to say not to do that, because it is an incredibly important part of the data protection scheme. But it is not a situation where it is cloud or tape. It is really cloud and tape. Those two technologies are incredibly complementary, because they help protect an organization from different threats and provide different capabilities in terms of recovery. For example, disaster recovery as a service in the cloud has fundamentally changed the economics of DR. And so we're seeing huge adoption of that. But at the same time, what we're also noticing is that, or what we know, is that 50% of applications are still on premise. There's a huge amount of data that is still on premise. So simply backing that data up to the cloud and then thinking that you can recall it and restore it, in many cases, not realistic. It may not be realistic because the bandwidth available to move tens of terabytes or hundreds of terabytes or more simply is not available. Plus, the egress cost of pulling that data out of the cloud is simply not economical. Tape actually has the ability to scale to almost any level to restore huge amounts of data in relatively short periods of time. And I understand that you need to be able to buy the tape drives and so forth, and be able to match that with the number of channels. But it really is a simple matter of math to know what the throughput is of the tape drives, the channels, the amount of data that you need to restore, and then calculate the amount that you would need to be able to restore that data within the service level that's required. So tape has that ability to scale, and it can do it very economically. And so I think one of the things that tape really has an advantage here, Geoff, is the ability to restore large amounts of data in short periods of time very economically.
We've addressed ransomware, massive data volumes, data sprawl, and cloud. Do you have any other thoughts regarding the role of tape in modernizing data protection?
Yeah, I'll tell you, Geoff, when people talk of tape and modernizing backup and data protection, some people, the cynics, will say that's an oxymoron, but it couldn't be further from the truth. Tape has made huge strides technologically, and in fact, it's never stopped. It's been doing that throughout the history of tape. The LTO project really came into its element when it came out with its first generation. We're now on Gen 8, by the way. And the LTO consortium, or the LTO project, is made up of a group of vendors, which are both hardware, tape drives, tape libraries, as well as media. And this group works on the standards to assure that there is compatibility between all devices, and that they have backward compatibility between current generations and prior generations. What that does for IT organizations is assure that there's a roadmap. In fact, it's publicly out there on the LTO website, where you can see what that roadmap looks like, and you can see what its plans are. As I said, we're on Gen 8 right now. The roadmap is currently through Gen 12. And with Gen 8, you can put 30 terabytes of data onto a single cartridge with compression. By Gen 12, you'll be able to put 12 times as much data onto a cartridge. So you can see that the tape roadmap is keeping up with the growth of data in the organization, and that is really something that IT organizations can keep up with in the future. Now, I also said earlier that cloud and tape are compatible technologies, and that is literally true. I think people would be amazed how many hyperscalers and applications, some of the very name brand kinds of applications that are out there right now, are using tape in the background, because these organizations have figured out that the economics of tape just can't be beat. The ability to store huge amounts of data in a nearline basis, where you can get access to that data, you can use that data, but you can do it incredibly cost effectively, is something that these incredibly large organizations have learned. So really, from this point, Geoff, I believe that tape has become an incredibly important part, or should be an incredibly important part, of an IT organization's modernization to be able to cope with ransomware, encryption, immutability, air gap, 3-2-1-1 backup strategies, and scanning the backup tape. Those are all the things that IT organizations need to be able to protect from ransomware, and tape can clearly deal with the growth and the data sprawl that's taking place in IT organizations. So for those reasons, I really believe it is an important weapon in the arsenal against ransomware.
Well, Phil, that's all the time that we have. We want to thank you for your time, and we really appreciate you joining us. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure, Geoff. Hope to speak to you soon.